Beneath the twisted boughs and swirling mists of Ashen Hollow lies a tale shrouded in fear and whispers. For centuries, villagers have spoken of shadowed figures, witches, who haunt the hollow's darkened paths, weaving spells from bone, ash, and secrets best left buried. Their eyes are said to burn like embers, their voices a chorus of temptation and terror. Tonight, we step into their domain, uncovering the truth behind the legends, the rituals, and the curse that binds this place in eternal twilight. But beware, once you hear their call, the hollow may never let you leave. This is the Witches of Ashen Hollow. The Witches of Ashen Hollow. The Ashen Hollow was not marked on any map. Travelers who came too close often found their horses balking, their compasses spinning, and the air thickening like breath on a cold glass. Locals in the neighboring hamlets spoke of it only in whispers, voices dropping as though the hollow itself might overhear. It was a place of unmaking, where trees leaned too far toward each other, where the soil smelled faintly of iron, and where the mist never lifted, not even under the noon sun. It was also home to the three witches. They were sisters, though not by blood. Each had come to the hollow through tragedy, or perhaps tragedy had been sent to lead them there. Eris, tall and sharp-boned, with eyes the color of frostbitten leaves, could still the wind with a word and coax lightning from a clear sky. Mara, broad-shouldered and slow-moving, bore scars across her arms from 100 experiments in firecraft. She could kindle flame from damp wood or snuff it with a sigh. Leora, youngest and quietest, had no visible power, or so strangers thought. Her gift was to walk through dreams, rearranging memories, planting visions like seeds. The villagers called them the Witches of Ashen Hollow. They did not come to the hollow willingly, but once you crossed the border and breathed its air, leaving was a myth. The boy who wandered in. It began with a boy named Tom. He was 17, all knees and elbows, carrying his father's axe to chop kindling before the rains came. He had grown restless with the same trail through the same trees, and so, against every whispered warning, he followed the deer tracks farther north than he'd ever dared. By the time he realized where he was, the light had changed. The sun was still above the treeline, but here in the hollow it was pale and thin, as if pressed through wet linen. A crow cawed once, sharply, and then the forest went still. He turned to retrace his steps, and found only unfamiliar paths, all of them curving inward. The first which he met was Leora. She was sitting on a moss-covered stone, hair falling in a dark braid over one shoulder. Her eyes lifted when she saw him, and Tom felt the peculiar sensation of being read like a book. "You've stepped too far," she said simply. "I was following a deer," he began. "The deer were following you," she corrected. "That's how the hollow works. It invites." Tom gripped his axe. "You're one of them, aren't you?" Her smile was faint. "One of us. The hollow will decide whether you leave." The bargain. By the time Tom met the other two witches, night had fallen. They welcomed him not with warmth but with a kind of curious appraisal. Eris circled him like a hawk. "He's strong," she said to Mara. "Strong enough to swing an axe through bone. Or to chop firewood," Mara replied, her voice like embers. "We've needed more hands." "I'm not staying," Tom said, though the words trembled. "You will," Eris replied, "or you'll feed the hollow." It was then that Leora spoke again, tilting her head as if listening to something far away. "No," she murmured. "He has something it wants, but not his life. Not yet." "What then?" Eris demanded. "His memory, the hollow's hunger." The hollow did not feed on flesh alone. It craved remembrance. Moments soaked in emotion, ripe with color. For a price, the witches would give it those memories, and in return it allowed them to live in its heart. The stronger the memory, the longer they could stave off its hunger. For years, the sisters had traded away pieces of their past. Mara no longer remembered the smell of her mother's kitchen. Eris had forgotten the name of the first boy she'd loved. Leora, perhaps the most careful, had lost only small things. A childhood toy, the shape of a long-ago pet's ears. But the hollow's appetite was growing. Tom refused at first. You can't just take what's mine. You'd rather be swallowed whole? Eris asked. The hollow will strip you down until you're an echo. Better to choose what you lose. Leora placed a hand on his arm. You have one memory it's already reaching for. Something bright. Someone dear. He thought of his sister, Anna. Her laugh when they raced to the riverbank. The way she wove wildflowers into her hair. That memory was more than a picture. It was a tether to home. No, he said sharply. Not her. Then the hollow will choose for you, Mara warned. The trade. They brought him to the hollow's heart. A clearing ringed with ash trees whose trunks leaned inward like conspirators. In the center stood a stone basin filled with water so black it reflected nothing. Place your hand in the water, Leora instructed. Think of the memory you're willing to give. Tom hesitated. He had no desire to forget Anna, but the hollow was closing in. Already the air thickened, pressing against his lungs. He reached instead for a smaller thing, the sound of his father's whistling while mending fences. It was dear, but survivable. When his fingers touched the water, it was icy and strangely heavy. The image of his father's bent shoulders, the faint off-key whistle. It shimmered, pulled from him like silk unraveling. He gasped as it vanished. The hollow shivered around them, and the mist retreated slightly. Payment accepted. Living in the hollow. Days bled into weeks. Tom could not find his way out. The forest paths always turned him back. The witches put him to work, hauling wood for Mara, fetching herbs for Leora, standing watch while Eris communed with the storms. He learned their rhythms and he learned the dangers. At night, the hollow whispered in voices that sounded like people he missed. It was easy to follow them into the dark and lose another memory before dawn. Some nights, Tom woke with tears on his face and could not remember why. Once he asked Leora why they stayed. She only said, "We came here broken. The hollow gives us power to match our pain. Outside, we'd be powerless again." Eris laughed at the question. "You think we could just leave?" "Fool boy. The hollow has our roots." The storm. One autumn evening, a hunter from the nearest village stumbled into the hollow. Unlike Tom, he came with purpose, carrying a silver-edged blade and muttering prayers under his breath. He'd lost his wife to a sickness he claimed the witches had cursed upon her. He sought revenge. The hollow tolerated many things, but violence against its chosen was not one of them. The forest itself turned against the man. Roots tangled his feet, branches clawed at his arms. The mist closed around his head like a shroud. He screamed as something unseen dragged him toward the black basin. Tom, against every instinct, ran after him. The man's terror reminded him too much of the face Anna might wear if she were trapped here. The witches caught up with him just as the basin's water began to ripple. "Let him go," Eris commanded, but the hollow was hungry. Leora's voice was urgent. "Tom, offer it something else. Something strong enough to satisfy." He thought of Anna again. This time, the hollow's pull was overwhelming. "No," he said through clenched teeth. And then, because there was no other choice, he offered it his own name. The Nameless One. When the water swallowed his name, Tom staggered back. He could still remember himself, but only dimly. The syllables of who he was, the sound of his identity, gone. In their place was a hollow ache. The hollow released the hunter, who fled without looking back. The witches stared at Tom with something between awe and pity. "You've done what none of us dared," Mara said softly. "You gave it the root. The ending that isn't." Without a name, Tom found the hollow less hostile. Paths opened for him. The mist thinned when he passed. He could leave now, he realized, but the thought felt strange, as though leaving was no longer the goal. When he asked Leora what it meant, she answered with her usual quiet certainty. "It means you belong to it, and it to you. The hollow will keep you alive as long as you keep feeding it. And if I stop?" She looked at him with something like sorrow. "Then it will take what remains." The next morning, he followed her into the mist, carrying the black basin between them. Somewhere beyond the trees, the hollow waited to be fed again. Explanation and analysis. Setting. Ashen Hollow is both a physical place and a sentient, parasitic entity. It manipulates paths, compasses, and even animals to draw people in. Its permanent mist, strange light, and iron-scented soil create a sensory atmosphere of unease. The Black Basin is a focal point for the Hollow's transactions, a symbolic mouth that consumes memories. The Witches. Eris represents storm and destruction, embodying the Hollow's raw, chaotic power. Mara embodies fire and transformation, destructive but also necessary for survival. Leora is the most dangerous in a subtle way. She works in the realm of dreams and memory, the Hollow's true currency. They are sisters in the way survivors of the same trauma might be, bonded by shared captivity and the price they've paid to endure. Their powers come from the Hollow but are sustained only through feeding it. Themes. Memory as identity. In the Hollow, losing a memory isn't just losing a fact. It's losing part of yourself. The price of survival is the erosion of who you are. Tom's eventual sacrifice of his name symbolizes a surrender of his root identity. Trapped survival. The Witch's situation mirrors cycles of abuse or entrapment. Leaving would mean vulnerability, but staying means paying a constant cost. Moral cost of protection. Tom's decision to give up his name to save the hunter reflects the personal cost of mercy in a place built on bargains. The sentient environment. The Hollow itself is a character, with hunger, patience, and agency. It manipulates events to draw in those who can feed it. The story's ending is intentionally unresolved. Tom has the ability to leave, but with his name gone, the tether to his old life has snapped. He is now partly a creature of the Hollow, bound by mutual need. It's a commentary on how some transformations, especially those born of survival, are irreversible. And so, the shadows of Ashen Hollow close in once more, carrying with them the echoes of the Witches' laughter and the chill of their eternal watch. Whether they are mere folklore or something far more sinister, their presence lingers in every rustle of the trees, every curl of midnight fog. If you dare to walk those cursed paths, remember, the Hollow always keeps its secrets, and sometimes, its visitors. Thank you for joining me on this journey into darkness. If you enjoyed the tale, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and beware the Hollow's call.